And congrats, this is your first book, correct?
Oh, yes, it is my first.
How tough was that to write a book your first time? I hear it's quite the endeavor.
It is. You really have to have the fire in your, like, you have to have a compelling reason to write it. Otherwise,
Yeah,
you'll never make it. You'll never write it. You'll never
exactly.
write it. Yeah.
And that compelling reason was about, your relationships, self-love, all of that. Can you go into kind of what guided you throughout that process to write this book?
Yeah. So honestly, my whole journey began 25 years ago or more when I found yoga.
Mm.
And it was like love at first sight. I don't believe in love at first sight, but for me in yoga, it was love at first sight. And so for many years I taught yoga
Okay.
and I taught at studios and I also taught individually. I worked with a lot of couples and I started to see that there was a relationship between a very strong relationship between how our bodies feel and how our minds feel. And that we can't, it's very difficult to feel mentally well if we don't feel physically well, and very difficult to feel mentally well if we don't feel and the other way around, right? Physically well if we
Yeah.
don't feel mentally well. Um, and I also saw it as incredibly nourishing to not only your relationship with yourself, but also a relationship with others. And I saw the how yoga and doing this with the body and the breath, and because yoga to me, the practice of the physical practice of yoga and also meditation, all of it really is the practice of toning the nervous system. It's toning your physiology. And so you're built your the goal, the aim is to build resilience and also flexibility. And that is a metaphor for how to approach life. And but about 7 years into teaching it, which was about 10 years into practice, 7 to 12 years, 7 to 10 years, I started to feel that there was something missing, that I wanted to do more but with my life, but I didn't know what that was. And I also wanted to get married and have kids and go that route. So, and, but I felt like there was some way that I wasn't like maximizing my full potential, but I didn't know what that was. So I ended up meeting the man who would become my husband and then ex-husband. And that was a very difficult journey.
Mm.
And the marriage only lasted 2 years and it ended abruptly. And he broke up with me over text, and my mom was dying of lung cancer. And so everything sort of came to a screeching halt in my life, and my life fell apart. And I became obsessed with two things. One, how am I going to feel better? How am I going to get
Mhm.
myself out of this catastrophic hole? And how, what the hell does it mean? Or what the hell does it take to make a relationship work? Because I was horrified by the fact that, going through a divorce or separation and being of a certain age did not match what I believed my identity to be. My identity was, I'm a yogi. I've done the work. We met in our late 30s. Like this should be able to work out. I even took a year off of dating before I met him.
Mhm.
I was ready, even though upon reflection, I was actually quite vulnerable when I met him. And so this idea of, put together, grounded yogi who on the outside looks like she has everything together, and then
Yeah.
going through a divorce, and going through a divorce after a relationship that like never even like ever got to blossom. Like it
Mhm.
died before it blossomed. And that's when I started my journey into figuring out what makes a relationship work. And I got into relationship coaching, and I thought this is definitely what I was put on this earth to do, was to help people on this deeper level. And I'm a teacher by nature, and I thought I have to teach this to people. And this is sort of how the book was born. I felt very compelled to share this because um, it's fortunately, it's been changing lives already, just in the way I help people, just my methodology. I've been blessed to help a lot of people. And so it seemed like the natural progression. So that's sort of like the medium version story of how that
Yeah.
book was birthed. Yeah.
No, it's your hero story, and it's a great one. It's one people really need to share a lot. It's the reason I started a podcast called Your Healthier Story, to share the stories that help
Yeah.
others figure out their path and their journey in healing.